is Ian Roberts. I work at Plaid Pantry. I'm just basically an employee.
My name is Nolan Sternkoff. I am currently a cashier at Safeway.
My name is Sam Pressey, and I used to be a gas station attendant at Fred Meyer.
I'm Skylar Smith. I am a cashier at Sherwood Safeway, and I've been there for about 5 years now.
My name is Sandro. I worked as a gas station attendant at Fred Meyer, and when the pandemic hit, I was switched into the click list department, which delivered online orders to people's cars.
Work before COVID-19 was fine.
I was in a pretty fine position at the gas station. I was maybe starting to think about looking for work at another place, maybe going into a restaurant business, but I wasn't too concerned, and I was content where I was.
Like, the gas station was always like pretty chill. People were pretty nice most of the time. For the most part, it seemed like the company treated their employees fairly at the time, but that changed pretty quick.
So, the very start of the coronavirus, pretty much every single year there's like a new strain of illness that seems fairly deadly, but you kind of hear about it in the news and then it kind of goes away and it's never much of a big deal, at least not that I've ever experienced. And I was kind of expecting this to be the same thing. But then the news started ramping up more and more, and it became apparent that this was different and this was more serious. People started getting that sense as well. And the store became much busier, and it all ramped up really fast. It was like an exponential curve.
I guess everything was very up in the air. Like, literally nobody knew what was going to happen. But I guess there was like a sort of excited tone, because anytime something occurs that is kind of different from just the normal, mundane, everyday Safeway work, people get a little bit excited.
There was like this weird period at the gas station where everyone was pumping their own gas, like, which basically rendered us useless. We would just sit and stand around in like the kiosk and like deal with how pissed off people were because they didn't know how to pump their own gas. And people just started getting like angrier and angrier, and like obviously all the toilet paper like disappeared off the shelves.
That's when everything was starting to like disappear, and cashiers were like kind of hoarding toilet paper for themselves, like to get after work. Like, everyone was kind of doing that because it was just a madhouse. Like, everyone was getting what they could, like preparing for they didn't even know what at that point. They just knew that there was going to be shortages of stuff, and everyone decided unanimously that toilet paper was the thing to get.
It was like surreal. It was felt like I was witnessing kind of like a strange event happening, because tons of people were coming through, and I think everybody was a little on edge, and just a lot of people getting stuff, and there was rumors of a lockdown coming, and nobody really knew what was going to happen.
When I worked those swings, let me tell you, there's some crazy people. When it first broke out, some guy was buying a bunch of products, and he was buying beer, and I go and he lift up his beer to scan his beer, and he pulls it back. He's like, "Don't touch it!" Like I had just committed the ultimate crime by touching this beer. Like, I'm wearing gloves. They're probably as safe as they will get.
About a week into people pumping their own gas, they just started like moving the gas station employees inside. I would just stand around and clean every single cart that people returned for hours and hours, spraying clean, like these rows and rows of carts every like 5 minutes, and did nothing else. And there was no one like monitoring any of the gas station employees. People were just taking 3-hour breaks. It was pretty ridiculous. Like, the store was in like disarray. Like, nobody knew what their job was anymore.
Us as front end workers, we're not allowed to tell people not to put their mask on. That's just not our job. It's the store director's job. So oftentimes I'll get like angry people coming up to me and being like, "That person's not wearing a mask. You gotta tell them to put their mask on." And I'm like, actually I don't. I don't have to do that. You can go talk to that person and they'll tell them to put a mask on. And even then, they can still decide not to wear a mask because it's not a law. It's like mandatory, but you're not going to get fined for it at that time at least.
we were given hazard pay, which was pretty decent. If I remember correctly, it was like an extra couple bucks an hour even. Maybe it was just an extra $1 an hour. But either way, that kind of thing adds up. And that helped. And it really felt like they were actually trying to compensate us for being there. Into summer, we still had hazard pay. And by then the mask order had gone through. And it kind of made sense to everyone who worked there, where it's like, okay, well, as long as we're required to have all these other regulations like wearing masks and stuff, then that's proof right there, like very official proof that there is a threat. Otherwise we wouldn't have to wear masks and stuff. So naturally, if there's a threat, we should keep getting hazard pay. It just makes sense.
As soon as it hit, Fred Meyer put on what they called hero pay to compensate everyone, and that was an additional $2 per hour, which was amazing. But it didn't last. I think it didn't even make it to the end of summer before they pulled it in favor of, initially they gave us an $100 credit that we could spend at Fred Meyer as a bonus, and then it was just nothing. Every once in a while they would give us like $10 coupons, $5 coupons, just to be like, oh yeah, we value you guys. But at that point it really didn't mean anything. The worst part for me was hearing all the Fred Meyer commercials where they continued to say how they were supporting their heroes, their frontline workers, but at the same time they kind of stabbed us all in the back by taking away hero pay.
We kept getting rumors that the union was having to like kind of negotiate harder and harder with Safeway to extend it, but we got it passed when Fred Meyer canceled it, and it kept getting extended. But at a certain point, it just kind of went away. And in fact, it's been so long now that I'd almost entirely forgotten about hazard pay. But it is pretty ridiculous to me that we don't get it anymore. They got rid of that a lot earlier than they should have, and it has not returned. And I really doubt it will.
After we stopped getting hazard pay, then we stopped being heroes and we started being like the local punching bags again, and everyone would, take out their angers on the cashier. They would just like come in guns ablazing, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. Okay, everyone's all fired up again. Nobody likes us anymore.
It was bullshit, really. I mean, it's fair to say. I mean, there's nothing more I can really say other than it was really bullshit.
At first, people really weren't that annoying. But understandably, to an extent, after a certain period of time in the lockdowns and stuff, I think people started just like getting miserable. The coronavirus really started getting politicized over the months, and that didn't help things. So then you started getting people who were very anti everything going on. So we started getting people that were really against stuff like the masks, and they would just complain about it when they came in. That always annoyed me because, it's really not that hard to put on a mask for a small shopping trip. Sometimes people would come through with just like one item. So they've been in the store for like 2 minutes, and they'd be like, God, I hate wearing this thing. And it's like, meanwhile, I've got an 8-hour shift that I'm wearing it for the entire time, and I don't care at all. So it's kind of just like, you're just kind of a wuss, but whatever.
I just got tired of everything. People were just like so aggressive all the time because, they're trapped inside and they can't do what they want. And then that makes the employees more aggressive. It was just kind of like a cycle of abuse. It was just like little stuff. The pumps were slow that day. And like, usually that's no big deal. And then all of a sudden it's like the end of the world that they can't get their gas super fast.
I was outside with an order, and my supervisor and another one of my coworkers went out to stop someone from driving away. And the guy had a big truck, and he pulled out of the parking lot. My coworker stood in front of him and blocked the way, and the guy just ran straight into him. And my coworker had to go to the hospital. And instead of compensating him for his injury during work, him and the supervisor next to him were both fired for violating Kroger rules. And both of them had been working basically every single day since the start of the pandemic, and were the most valuable workers in the department by far. And it's just awful to see that a company can just turn around and stab someone in the back like that after like years of service. So it was disheartening for sure.
It just kind of became like, what the why are we doing this? Why are we helping this company? Like, they don't give a F about us. They're sitting on their capitalist thrones, laughing, making bank. It's just, that's how it felt. But yeah, no, I probably wasn't compensated fairly. And I don't think anyone else who worked during that pandemic was compensated fairly.
Obviously, hero pay would need to be extended for the length of the pandemic. It just makes it so clear when it's canceled immediately that it's just a PR move. Once the general public is like, oh, Fred Meyer's is a good company because it's giving its employees good pay, and then as soon as everyone realizes that, they take it away. But that fact is not published, unfortunately. So it's very transparent. Keeping your employees properly compensated for, doing dangerous work should be a given.
Because it's still a hazard. It's not like the hazard goes away. Like when you get used to it, the hazard's still there.
Overall, I think I'm like pretty lucky. I have a job still. I didn't have to go through the headache of trying to get unemployment, despite the fact that if I did get unemployment, I'd be getting paid a lot more. So that's kind of irritating to think about, but also maybe I wouldn't have even gotten it. A lot of people who applied for unemployment didn't get it.
I think we're at the point now where the tensions have mellowed out a bit as people have just gotten used to this. So now we just generally get the same weird stuff we used to get. But, in the meantime, everyone just hold tight and hope for the best, I guess. It's kind of cheesy, but it's all there is to be said, I think.